Welcome to StaarCast, a show about tarot, divination, and all things mystical. StaarCast is a celebration of StaarCon, the Southeastern Tarot Artist and Readers Conference. I'm Amy Mauser, and here's your host, Christiana Gaudet.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Amy. I am Christiana Gaudet. Welcome, everyone, to StaarCast. We are getting closer and closer to StaarCon 2022, which will be January 21st through the 23rd, in person in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, and online on Events, and followed by a 30-day afterglow on Events, where you can experience and re-experience the classes that you loved and the ones that you missed. Today, I am so excited. We have been waiting for this. I am joined by one of our headliners for StaarCon 2022, Sasha Graham. Welcome, Sasha.
Hi, it's so nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. Thank you for agreeing to be a headliner. Thank you for being here with me today. So in email, you and I were marveling about the fact that we have yet to ever meet. In fact, this is our very first conversation.
Isn't that crazy? It's crazy. Although I did reach out to you. You sent me at the beginning of the pandemic. My husband and I put together kind of messages from the tarot community, just to check in and see what everybody was doing that March when the blank hit the fan. And so when I got your video for that, I was like, oh, I know her. Like I was just like, I know her already.
Well, and we've discovered that we are sort of birthday adjacent. We're both early Scorpios.
That's right.
And actually, you are a birthday twin with my late father. So I love that about you. But I am just so excited to learn about you. And of course, to meet you in person at StaarCon. Really looking forward to that. But here's the thing, obviously I started reading tarot long before we had like social media and all of the things. But I don't really remember, as I started coming onto social media and seeing who was who and whatnot, I don't remember a time when I did not know that there was a Sasha Graham. I can't even like I remember, I haven't even read Tarot Diva, and I'm shamed by that, but I have not. But I remember seeing it and thinking, oh man, that girl's got it going on. So I want to know your origin story. Where did you come from?
Where did I come from?
As a tarot person.
That's so funny. I actually put my origin story in my new book, The Magic of Tarot, which just got released by Llewellyn on October 8th. It came out to the world. And my origin story with tarot, it's really quite, I would say, epic and cinematic in a sense, because I'm a Halloween baby. So I always felt like I was a witch, or a goblin, or a ghoul. And I figured that reading tarot cards, I would just know automatically how to do that based on being a Halloween baby and into like spooky things. So there was a school fair and they were looking for people to like set up tables and tents to like sell stuff to raise money. And I thought, oh, I'll be a fortune teller. So I ran and I got a deck of cards from the mall, brought them home, so excited, opened them up. I had no idea what I was looking at. I was like completely overwhelmed by all of the images. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know, my stepsister's best friend happened to be in the house at the same time that I was like opening up the cards and going through it. And she was a born-again Christian. Freaked out. And we lived on a farm, a produce farm. She grabbed the cards, ran outside, put them in a dumpster into like a trash can, and lit them on fire and told me they were the devil's work and that I should never go near a deck of tarot cards, that they were evil.
Now, how old are you at this time?
I'm in middle school. I'm like 12. Like it's like 7th, 8th grade.
Oh, and did you, what was your reaction to that?
I thought it was fabulous in a weird way. I thought these must really be powerful. I mean, she was so scared. Like she was scared. right? You know that face sometimes people make if they walk in your house and see your Ouija board sitting there and it's like they're looking at a ghost or that they don't want to see. Like they're just like, like they viscerally get frightened.
Right.
So her fear frightened me, like put me off. But then I just thought her reaction was so over the top. And so I wasn't raised really, I was fortunate enough not to be raised in any one stringent religion. So I just thought, wow, like this is a thing. This is really fascinating. And the cards must be powerful. And what are they telling people in her born again religion? You know what I mean? I was a comparative religion a major in college. And that may have, and right now that I'm saying it, that may have been one of the reasons, because I just thought, why would someone be so frightened of a deck of cards? Seems ridiculous.
Right. So then, okay, so now you do not have your cards with which to pretend to be some kind of fortune teller. So did you do that fair?
Did I what? Oh, no, I never set up a table. And truthfully, I was, I'm sure, very relieved, because I was so excited to do it. But then I didn't know when I opened the deck, I was like, I don't know what this means and how am I going to like pull this off? But that was also the impetus actually to writing Tarot Diva, because there's nothing more discerning than being super excited about something and then feeling like you can't do it. So I got really excited once I was working with tarot about just showing everybody how they can use the cards without a book. You don't have to like apply the rules. You know what I mean? Like tarot is so cool and it's so awesome. And I just want everyone to be able to have fun with the cards and not feel overwhelmed. So if I can help facilitate that, that makes me really happy.
That's so great. So at what point did you actually get a deck that did not get set on fire? The funny part is I must have been in high school, like played around with it. And then it wasn't until my 20s that I got really serious and like started practicing on like all my friends and all the girls I was working with. You probably remember this, right? When you're like, you get to that point where you're like, I'm going off book. I got to get off book. I won't be legit. I won't really be able to read until the little white book is gone. And then it just became part of my like fun life. I had been doing other things, like I was a B movie star in the 90s. Then I was a stay-at-home mom. And then when my daughter went off to kindergarten, my husband was like, hey, babe, what's your next career move here? What you going to do? And I was like, literally pulling the tarot cards, a card a day, asking what my profession should be. Like, I had no idea. I love this.
Like the tower card, like moment. And I was like, oh, be a tarot reader. Like you live in New York City. You could have private clients during the day and work events at night because there's so many parties in New York. They need tarot card readers. And so I was like, that's it. I'll be a tarot card reader. And then I was like, oh, but I have to like properly go to school if I'm going to charge money for it. So I'm like, I wonder if there's a tarot school in New York City. So I look it up online and there's Wald and Ruth Ann's Tarot School, literally 5 blocks from my house, where their Monday night tarot classes. Right. So like when you're in alignment, right? Everything kind of just lined up beautifully. And yeah, that's how it all happened.
That is so great. That is so great. Now, do you still do anything with acting?
I do, actually. I do. So the movies that I made in the 90s, it was like this crazy small segment of shot on video horror films. But at that time, Blockbuster was all the rage. Uh-huh. And these movies would get put into Blockbuster. So I was on the cover of like a few like vampire movies and stuff. So I was all over the country. So all of these like indie filmmakers would call me for these really fun roles. Like I wasn't a final girl. Like I was either a vampire, a werewolf, a mafia hit chick. Like I was always like a powerful supernatural creature. And so about 5 years ago, I started hearing from like the guys are making movies again. Right. So I returned to the B movie set, I guess 3 years ago on a cameo. And then I starred in a short, and then I'm slated to star in this like crazy balls revenge thriller. I think in March, but So, I mean, like if somebody's like, hey, do you want to come wear a bunch of sequin dresses and like murder some dudes and like play with fake blood? You say yes. You go, yeah. So I don't actively pursue it, but when they ask, I am so there in a hot flash.
That is so great. So you are like, you do professional readings now?
I spend so much time writing and so much time teaching, actually, that I find it more advantageous and a better use of my time to focus on teaching and writing and tarot things. Because obviously, I'd rather teach someone how to fish rather than cook them a nice seared red flounder. So I do readings very few. Like I just choose who. Yeah, which is nice. It's nice.
So when you were doing readings professionally, and so here you are, you know, this theater person, actress, all of that, and also doing readings, did you find that there was some crossover there in terms of, not that we're not ourselves when we do a reading, but something about the presentation of a reading, that being a theatrical person helps with that? Did you find that?
Well, so there's a few layers to what you just said that I think it's really interesting, and absolutely yes. So on a surface layer, and when you think about like the traditional image of like a fortune teller, there's a lot of theatrics in that, and that's something I actually played upon when I was selling myself as a reader to companies for their events. You know, there is a sensuality and theatricality to a woman who is in a velvet tent with mysterious makeup, hoop earrings, sensual candles, and who's gonna read your cards. I mean, reading tarot in and of itself is a very sensual art form. It's very analog. It's like tarot card readers are like book collectors in that sense. It's something that you viscerally engage with. So it's a very tactile thing. Not for everyone necessarily, but I would say in a large part. So I did, and I do enjoy the show that goes along with that. And I think it's important. It's the same thing that happens in any religion, that when they're lighting candles and incense, and the priests or the gurus or the rabbis are dressing up in these gorgeous robes, and you have choirs singing. It's all about seducing. It's all about seducing the self into being ready to receive information, or ready to receive a teaching, or ready to receive some sort of special thing. And so you have to mark that space out. And so the seductive and entertainment value can't be understated in that, when you're preparing someone and getting them to a point where they're really ready to listen or to receive. And then the other part that I think is interesting, there's very much a corollary, and it's between tarot reading and actually all art forms, not just acting, but I think it is the same as writing a poem, or painting a painting, or composing a piece of music, or playing a piece of music, that when you are in communion with the cards, whether it be for yourself or with the person sitting across from you, you are opening yourself up. You are 100% rooted in the moment, because you want to be there for whatever is coming through you. And just like a musician would know the notes to play, we understand as readers, theoretically, the structure and the meaning, right? But then we find the beauty and the nuance therein. And so it's kind of like, to me, this very like three-way art form where something new is born, hopefully, if you're doing it right. And it's not always like so perfect and beautiful, but I think it's the same. I think it's a creative act.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. I was a theater major in college.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. I never did much with it, a little bit of community theater. But what I learned in that, and I did not graduate with that degree, but that's what I started out with. What I learned from that was that's not how I wanted to spend my life. That's what I learned. But I have always loved theater stuff and creativity and that kind of thing. And I do agree that there is something about doing a reading, and I'm not the costume person. Like if I do a gig and they want me in some sort of costume, I'm like, oh man, that costs so much extra. Because for me, and it's funny because when I was young, or even younger as an adult, I loved costuming. I would throw costume parties all the time. I remember throwing a party with a costume bar where if you did not come in costume, we were putting you in a costume.
Love
and I used to love that. But I don't know. I think it was having children. I think that's what did it for me. And I would love like making their costumes for Halloween or whatever. But at this point, I'm like, oh, no, man, I got dressed. That was enough. So I'm so much the opposite, where I just want to show up like if the colors of my clothes actually match, and I've done a good job for the day. So I sort of specialize in doing a reading without any of that. And yet, I completely feel like I use a lot of theatrical energy when doing a reading. That there is something about it, and this is going to get into, I think, your StaarCon presentation. There is something about the art of the storyteller.
Oh, yeah.
That whether you're using a prop, whether you're using a costume, or whether it's just the energy that you're pumping out, you are telling a story. And if you're going to have that person engage in that, and it is their story, so you want them to be engaged, we're using some theater techniques.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is going to get us into you giving us a little sneak peek into what we're going to be doing with you at StaarCon.
Yeah, I am so excited because this will be the first kind of big stage presentation of storytelling stuff. And to be honest with you, like shadow work, I think that understanding our own roles as the tellers of our lives, I mean, storytelling is really the key to the suit of swords.
Right.
And
yes. Thank you. Yes.
that's it, right? That's right. Like, so once you understand not only how we act as the narrator, both the outer narrator when we're communicating with other people, but also as the inner narrator, which comes with our inner voice. And then the way in which that we can use the cards in order not only to tell our stories, but to tell better stories, right? To go deeper, to find more depth, to find more complexity, because it's like going to see like a phenomenal movie, right? A good story shows you something that's possible. It shows you, it surprises you. Uh-huh. And that's, I think, every time we come to the cards, we haven't done our job if we're not a little bit surprised by what we've discovered.
Oh, I love that. And I'm so excited for your presentation.
I'm so excited to give it.
So that brings me, okay, so here we go. I'm just working on a blog post about this thing, and you reminded me of something here. So I saw on social media recently a reader say, tarot can't tell us anything that we don't already know. And right, I'm seeing your smile here. Right. You're making the same face I made. And, and then she goes on to say, it's a bridge between the conscious and the subconscious, and maybe the conscious doesn't know it, but the subconscious does, and tarot will bring it forward. And what you said is, there's always going to be a surprise. And I've been doing some thinking about this. And in fact, I'm putting out a blog post that basically says, for me, I'm not sure that that's true. I think there are things we don't know that tarot can tell us, but everyone's mileage may differ. What do you think?
I think that, first of all, if it's going and plugging into the subconscious, if you're talking to ancestors or like your spirit guides, like, does it matter? Like, does it matter?
Does it matter?
The whole point of a really good mystery, right, is that it's not meant to be solved. It's meant to be played with. And we can all kind of, look at the science or figure out probably maybe where the information is coming from. But at the end of the day, is what's happening in front of you useful? Have you walked away from a tarot reading in a different state of mind, in a more open space, in a more inspired space than when you sat down with it to begin with? If the answer is yes, then you're doing something right, and you and the rest of the world is better for it. So that's another interesting thing about storytelling, what you know or what you don't know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You know, are you inspired? Are you taking action? Are you like living in your awesomeness? Are you like inside your magic right now? That's what counts.
So well said. That was fabulous. I love that. So good. So let's just talk a little bit about the Sasha Graham catalog. Not the B-movie catalog, although that's interesting too, but the tarot catalog. So Tarot Diva was your first book, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Tarot, it's so funny. Yeah. This is coming up a lot lately. I've been going through the catalog, or people have been asking me about it. Yeah, Tarot Diva was my first book with Llewellyn. And then I believe what happened next was I was commissioned by Scarabeo to write their big hardcover Tarot Fundamentals, Tarot Compendium, and Tarot Experience. At the same time as I was writing and compiling those encyclopedias, I was working on 365 tarot spreads. Because it was one of those ideas that I had. I love tarot spread books. And I thought, well, if there's got to be an every day of the year tarot spread book. But when I looked it up, there wasn't. And I was like, oh, I have to write that. I have to see if I can do it, right? If I can make something interesting. So I did it. And I love that. I loved writing that book, and people really enjoy it. It makes me, it's always fun to work on something if you don't know if you're going to succeed at it or not. You know, because you're like, ooh, am I? It keeps you awake. And with the success and sort of my delight with that book, I was also a big fan of Tarot Magic by Ginny and Renee. And so I thought, let me apply the same concept, but for a tarot spell every single day. And what I loved about her tarot spells were that it really was experiential, that she really got you inside the cards as you were making magic. And I thought, it's more than just magic. You're also learning about tarot a lot, you know. So I was really excited to write that book. And then I think I did the Llewellyn's Complete Guide to the Rider Waite Smith Tarot, which may have happened after my Tarot of the Haunted House tarot deck, which was my first tarot deck.
Let's talk about that tarot deck. So did you design it? Did you write the book? Did you draw it? How did you actually create this deck?
All right, let me explain. See, I never ever thought, people were always like, are you going to make a tarot deck? Because I had published books. And I was like, no, there's a million tarot decks and nobody needs another tarot deck from me. Like, that's weird. No. And I was working with Scarabeo and Riccardo Minetti, my editor over there. He was like, Sasha, when are you going to make a deck? And I'm like, Rick, the world doesn't need another tarot deck. Why? Why would I do that? And he was like, because it is one thing to read the cards, but it is quite another to let the cards spring from inside of you. And I was like, I want to feel the cards spring from inside of me. So I'm like, what do I do? And he's like, write up a proposal, come up with an idea for a deck. And then you write it, you'll write your deck like a movie script, and we'll find an artist. And so every card is like a scene in the movie. And we'll find an artist together. And so at that time, I had been voraciously collecting soft cover paperback novels from the 60s and 70s, Gothic romances, which had those the fabulous artwork of like women in gorgeous gowns running away from haunted mansions with like a lit tower. And they were just kind of like, And I thought, because I had this big collection of that art and those books. And I was like, the haunted house really represents the self. And in all of those movies and books, the female protagonist either is brought in as a governess or comes to the mansion, and she's kind of young and terrified and freaked out. But by the end, bitch owns the house. She inherits the house. She somehow it becomes her. And I thought this is really a metaphor for owning who it is that you are and kind of, embracing all of those things that fear you. What a perfect setting for a tarot deck. So yeah, we found this great artist, and I was able to fill the haunted house tarot with horror tropes. So you'll see cards that have been influenced from The Shining and The Exorcist, and there's demons and witches and vampires and gothic drama and romance and intrigue. I mean, it's just fabulous. It's a really fun deck.
And that's still available?
Yeah, it's available. It's everywhere. You can find it anywhere. It just comes, it's not a big kit like the Darkwood Tarot, which is a big, beautiful kit. It's, I don't know what they would call it. It's just a little pack of cards with a little white book. But
traditional tuck packaging.
Yeah, I will definitely have some on hand at StaarCon. I will be selling and signing all of my titles.
Oh, so good, so good. Now, Darkwood, thank you for mentioning that. Tell us about Darkwood Tarot.
So as I had said or referenced earlier, I had been doing a lot of teaching about how to use the tarot for shadow work. It was actually my first presentation at the Reader's Studio, my first big stage presentation ever as a tarot author. And I am obsessed with shadow work, once again, because employing shadow work allows readers to really look at what they don't know or what they don't see. And because I am, myself included, I think we often tell ourselves what we want to hear a lot with the cards. Sure. And I think are very it's a new cycle, it's a new beginning. And that's fine and that's great. But we're tarot readers because we want to see what other people don't. And we want to see what we don't see. That's the whole point. So, so after I had been teaching these classes, I thought, this might make an amazing deck. And so I came up with the concept, and I made a proposal for Llewellyn, and they accepted it. And then we searched, Barbara Moore and I searched for probably the better part of a year and a half, because I had a very specific vision of what I wanted the deck to look like. I thought, if I'm encouraging people to look at dark, spooky parts of themselves and their own behavior, then I have to make it seductive and beautiful. And so when we found Abigail Larson as our illustrator, I just knew in a hot second, she's the one. Because she was just so amazing. And working with her was amazing. And the deck has been really well received. And so I'm proud and I'm delighted. And I was able to put a real great fairy tale story into the Fool's journey. And I'm very proud. Very proud of that deck.
So now you've had 2 tarot decks spring out of you.
Yes. Well, and a third. Yeah, I'm doing a deck called Tarot of the Witch's Garden with Llewellyn. And that tarot deck, so it's kind of like the antithesis to Darkwood, which is very kind of dark and fairy tale. This is kind of an empowered, magical manifestation deck of a witch's garden, which is full of the keys to the universe, and anybody who comes within its gates are able to make magic with the archetypes found therein.
Oh, I love this. And this will be available when?
I think it's probably going to be published. We don't have the exact date. I'm still waiting for the major arcana to come back from the artist, who's amazing. But I think it'll probably come out either at the end of 2022 or the beginning of 2023.
Oh, so exciting. Oh, my goodness. And, one of the missions of StaarCon is to honor our artists and designers.
Yes.
Because when you say, why does the world need another tarot deck? Well, the world will always need another tarot deck, because the more that we can explore the archetypes, the more that we can see how the archetypes are expressed from culture to culture and theme to theme, the more that we will understand tarot, the more that tarot becomes something we can all embrace. So I do not think there will ever be too many tarot decks. And without our artists and designers, what would we be working with?
Yeah.
I'm sitting in a room. I have a small collection at about 150. Compared to many people we know, that's, a tiny collection, but it delights me every day. And so we are so grateful to you and to the publishers and the artists and everyone who come together to create this. And in a way, that's really what StaarCon is all about, is a celebration of this just amazing thing that we're all a part of. So let me ask you, do you work with any other sort of tool? I mean, tarot, yes, but do you use a pendulum? Do you work with any other kinds of card decks? Any other tool for you?
No. I mean, and it's funny, people have asked me this in the past, and something actually just popped into my head right now, which may seem counterintuitive, but I actually put it into my books. And now that I think about it, yoga is really my tool that I use with the tarot.
Yes.
Because I will wind up doing is putting specific cards around the mat before I practice, kind of like setting sometimes I'll literally put the 4 aces at each direction around my mat. But I'm a huge fan. I know tarot readers, again, myself included, often tend to be very stuck in our heads. So I think when we can embody the cards, when we can ground it in sort of a somatic work, it's a game changer, because then we've really taken the energy or the archetype of the card and placed it within ourselves. And it's our bodies that we use when we're getting information from the cards. So yeah, I would say yoga is my tool now, obviously not when I'm reading for someone.
But how cool would that be? I mean, how cool would that be? A private yoga session with a reading. I'm not saying you should offer this, but someone who is a certified yoga teacher and also a great tarot reader, that would be a thing.
Well, I teamed up with Allison DeNicola, and we did a yoga tarot retreat at Kirpalo called Awaken Inner Magic. And so she took on the yoga part. She's she's an employee and author over at US Games, and does a bunch of oracle decks as well. But we would go through elemental flows. And so that it was like a guided, like you're guided in a yoga class, but guided through the elements, guided through different cards. So we were very much embodying it. But that would be interesting, an actual reading with.
I'm trying to think about how that would work. This would take some time, but I think there's a way it would work.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. We may have stumbled upon something new.
A thing. I do see a connection between tarot and yoga in a lot of ways. One of my very best friends is a yoga studio owner in Connecticut. And so when I go to Connecticut on my tarot tour, she lets me stay in her studio and do readings out of her studio.
Oh, how nice.
And I've taught some classes out of the studio. And so it's been really interesting, seeing yogic people work with tarot is something I've really had the privilege of doing. And it's very interesting. And I read for a lot of yogic people and a lot of yoga studio owners who have all had, varying levels of tough times during the pandemic, obviously. But yeah, there's definitely something there. In fact, I'm doing readings at a trunk show at a yoga studio in December.
Fun.
Yeah.
That's fun. Well, the yoga poses themselves are archetypal, of course.
Right.
So you can, I was like, you can move into a mountain pose. You can move into the energy of a mountain pose, like you would move into the energy of the Empress card. Or you could move into, I think there's wisdom to be accessed just within the archetypal energy of the yoga poses, especially, something like Shavasana, the corpse pose, is the death card embodied.
Oh. Okay, so I'm going to throw one at you. My very favorite posture, at least so far, I know that can change over time, but I love eagle. I can't quite get my leg all the way around to where it should be yet. I'm working on it, but I love eagles. So if eagle posture were a tarot card, which card would it be?
Well, funny you should say that, because in the Darkwood Tarot, the Chariot card is actually a white bald eagle.
And there you have it. Oh, and that's perfect though, because Chariot is like, I mean, we can make this work. Chariot is this thing about opposites moving together. And in eagle, you're putting your arms like right arm over left arm and crossed around, and then the left leg over right leg and crossed around. So there is this opposite pulling going on.
And yoga means yoke, right? You're yoking the energy, the physical to the spiritual. So,
ooh, so much fun. So I haven't figured out how to have there be a yoga class at StaarCon yet. And since it's a hybrid thing, StaarCon is hybrid, it would have to, and people would have to be able to do it at home and do it at, and we're not doing that. But my hope is by the time we get to 2023, we will have an offering of yoga at the conference. That is my hope. So we'll see.
I think that would be great, because the energy at any conference tends to be so intense. You get more than 10 tarot readers in a room, and the psychic energy is off the charts. It's so much. I know I always have to go back to my room and recharge every couple hours, just like, so yeah, yoga offering would be phenomenal.
Yeah, it would be. And, it was so interesting. Of course, last year, StaarCon was entirely online. And I wasn't sure, could we get that container of energy for people from home, everyone from home all over the world. And people reported that they really did feel that they really did feel in that cauldron of energy. And so now we have the challenge of having it in person and also hybrid, where we want everyone to, we want people at home to feel like they're there, and we want people who are there to feel connected with the people who aren't there. So when you see me at night in the bar with my laptop, with all the people in the lounge, so the people in the lounge will be with the people in the lounge. When you see that happening, that will be my effort to make sure that everyone everywhere is enjoying StaarCon.
No pressure.
No. So it is so great for us to just get a little peek at who you are and what you'll be doing for us at StaarCon. We're really looking forward to it. Sasha Graham, I want to thank you so much for being here with us today. I want to remind everyone that tickets are on sale right now, whether you will be joining us in person in Palm Beach Gardens or online on Excel Events, whatever ticket level you're looking for. And I want to remind you that ticket prices start at $50. So there is a ticket for every budget. Now is the time to get your ticket. Go to StaarCon.com. That's StaarCon.com. Get your ticket. And Sasha, we will see you in January.
I will see you in the new year.
Thanks for joining us for StaarCast. For more information about our annual conference, visit us online at StaarCon.com. That's StaarCon.com. We are looking forward to seeing you in January.